We have scheduled the investment conference in Kisumu from the 26th to the 29th of September this year. It will be held at the Jomo Kenyatta International Sports Ground, where we held the Madaraka Day on the 1st of June, mainly because that sports ground is not only for athletics or football, but it has facilities for conferencing too, and we want to make use of those facilities. At the time of COVID, it also offers a good venue where we can put up a dome for social distancing, for any other meeting or activity that requires more people to come together for discussion. So it is a multi-purpose stadium, really, and we are grateful to have it at this point in time, to use it for the first time for conferencing in September. One, that we have started now a process of informing and making people who would be attendees to the conference to know about the conference. We ourselves have already prepared from every ministry investable projects that investors can be interested in. We have an investment handbook, we have a website, and we also have a continuous interaction and discussion with the business community in Kenya and in Kisumu County, so that they too can be part and parcel of shaping the agenda for the investment conference. We feel very strongly that it is not just enough to tell people that we want you to invest in agriculture and so on. They want to know the ground rules for investing in Kisumu. What is the environment? Is it friendly? Is it hospitable to investors or not? In terms of government procedures, licensing, information availability, data, and things like those. That we are making available, and we want that dialogue to continue, so that by the time we have the investment conference, people have already had an idea of where they want to put their money in the County of Kisumu. The highlight of it, let me tell you, was to me the interest that the diplomatic community had in Kisumu, the questions they asked, the information they thought was missing and should be made available on the website. And they wanted to know much more, in particular, what is the comparative advantage of Kisumu within the East African region and within the Lake Region Economic Bloc? Because they did get the sense that Kisumu is an entree point to both regions. One, the Lake Region Economic Bloc, and two, the East African community, sitting at the end of Lake Victoria and enjoying maritime transport into the lake and having historical trade relations with our neighbors, both within the Lake Region Economic Bloc as well as East Africa. I remember when I was growing up, there was MV Victoria, MV Kamongo, and all those plowing the lake to Bukoba and to Mwanza and to Port Bell and all that. When the East African community collapsed in 1978, a lot of people lost their jobs, including my late brother, who was then working in the shipping line on Lake Victoria. And the women who used to deliver their goods, fruits, vegetables, and tubers to Jubilee Market, and then traders would come from Tanzania and buy these things and put them on MV Kamongo and MV Victoria to take them that direction. All that died. Now, with the opening of the port, we can see a renaissance of inter-country and inter-country trading on Lake Victoria, with Kisumu as being the entreport. So this is something that was discussed at length, and that means that certain institutions and facilities should be available in Kisumu, okay? And that's one of the reasons why we are expanding our markets, because our markets in Kisumu are not just for trade within Kisumu County, but they are creating facilities for those people who like to bring vegetables from Molo, for example, from Kericho, to come and find a place where if you bring your vegetables and they're not sold overnight, you can still keep them somewhere. And also a place where there are other facilities in that market, like banking facilities, like a restaurant nearby where you can eat safely. So something like Uhuru Business Market, and we are grateful to the national government for supporting us in creating that market, is going to be a very important market for the region, not just for Kisumu. Yes, this is the first one. The next one will be next week, which we are going to hold with government parastatals. Because government parastatals play a great deal in our economy, great role. In our economy. Take for example Kenya National Trading Corporation (KNTC) or Kenya Industrial Bank or KCB, Kenya Commercial Bank. All these government corporations and agencies play a great deal of role, a big role in county economies, and we want to have a conversation with them. After that one, then we'll follow the following week. We'll have the private sector, and we'll also have meeting the Kisumu business community itself. Remember, headquarters of national and international private sector are here in Nairobi, but there are a lot of business entities within the Lake region or in Kisumu who have their own specific interest in investing in Kisumu. We want to meet them also as an entity by their own. So that have a discussion that we shall have with the private sector here, and we welcome collaboration with Kenya Private Sector Alliance to help us mobilize the private sector in Kenya and in Nairobi, but subsequently have a specific conversation with the private sector in Kisumu. From the conference, really, one, we hope to achieve more investment in Kisumu County. We already have investment. For example, in the area of affordable housing, we have advanced discussions with both LAP Fund and LAP Trust. We have already laid the foundation stone for the 2 estates which are to be brought down and to be built affordable housing for better use of that land. It is called getting land capture value, for where you have those old derelict houses. We are bringing in modern apartments with integrated living. In other words, with shops and schools and so on nearby, so that these parts form parts and parcel of a sustainable and resilient urban life in Kisumu today and Kisumu of the future. So those are some of the investments that we will actually profile during the investment conference. Secondly, there are investments that we'll actually sign during the investment conference as a result of this discussion we're having. One of them is due with the modernization of the Jubilee Market and its environs. We are in discussions with people who are interested in this, and that will be unveiled during the conference. But during the conference, we shall have what we call focused discussions in what we call business cubicles. For example, the Ministry of Agriculture will have a cubicle of its own in the field or in the dome of Jomo Kenyatta International Stadium. And while the conference is going on, you can go into that agricultural cubicle and say, in the area of agriculture, what can I invest here? And they will tell you, look, there's an opportunity for rice processing in the rice belt. We are now producing a lot of rice, and we are likely to produce even more, because Kisumu County, by the way, has more land for rice production in Kenya in general than any other place at this point in time. In actual fact, as a county government, we are putting a 30 million shilling rice milling plant in the rice belt. But that's not enough. We know that as more rice is grown, especially when the Sondu Koru Soin multipurpose dam comes into operation and the flooding on River Nyongo is controlled, we'll even have a bigger area for rice growing in that area. So rice milling and rice production is a going concern, is a growing concern. The other one is, of course, just in fish production and fish filleting. You know that over the last couple of years, because of environmental degradation in Lake Victoria, because of lack of maritime transport, because of lack of incentives, the breakdown of infrastructure, the withdrawal of filleting plants from Kisumu to places like Thika. We are trying to restore all that through what we call the Lakefront Development Corporation. And we are likely to have much more fish production through fish caging in the lake, which is a growing business. And so that's an area too that we think that people would like to invest in fish filleting and other allied investments. But much more important really is in urban infrastructure. You know, urban infrastructure involves many things. It involves how effective and efficient we have in terms of energy production, energy use. So solar lighting becomes very important. The expansion of waste management and using waste management for much more productive purposes, the waste that is produced. And so I would say that a growing city like Kisumu has many opportunities for investments that people don't realize. And lastly, which is very important, people will only invest in a city like Kisumu and bring in more services into a city like Kisumu if your health services is working well. We want Kisumu really to profile itself as a health provision destiny, where if you want to get attention for healthcare, rather than go to India, you come to Kisumu. That's an initiative we're having with our people in the health profession. And the climate is also good for rehabilitation, for many ailments. So those areas of what we call a comparative advantage, we want to build on. And that conversation we shall carry out during the investment conference. But we shall also showcase investments that are succeeding already and that are making money because they are placed in Kisumu in that particular area. We expect all and sundry, really. We expect people are already doing business. We expect potential business persons who are interested and have money and want somewhere to invest it. We expect people who have intention to start business of all sizes, small and medium enterprises, and up to branches of multinationals. We are not discriminating because we think that all this is important for the growth of the economy. We also expect people who are interested in startup capital. People who are interested in ICT, for example, which is playing a very important role. Business hubs. We will be opening during the investment conference our Kisumu Center for Business Incubation and Innovation, which is complete, but we are just equipping it at the moment. We want to launch it during the investment conference because that is one center we think is going to be very important for encouraging the youth to start themselves in investments. It's called Kisumu Center for Business Innovation and Incubation and Innovation. The incentive is the following. One, that we assure you a good environment for doing business, where services are properly provided. People have been wondering why we are making certain changes in Kisumu, like just changing infrastructure, providing more opportunities for non-motorized transport, i.e. walking and so on, and improving the green space in Kisumu. An urban center can be a very cruel environment if it is just made up of mortar and stones and concrete, because it is a good environment for inviting greenhouse gases, which is a source of respiratory illnesses. It has happened in the West, in advanced societies. We want to avoid it. That's one of the reasons why the Afri-Cities conference being held in Kisumu in April next year, because the question is being asked, given the fact that urbanization is very high in Africa, Africa records the highest rate of urbanization in the world today, given the fact that more young people are moving to urban centers, what are the intermediate cities like Kisumu going to look like in the year 2050 if we don't do certain things now? If we're not aware of ensuring that we have green space in cities, what are we going to look like in 2050? If we don't create space for improving urban infrastructure? Are we going to repeat what is happening in Waiyaki Way or Uhuru Way today in the next 30 years in Kisumu, when it will be even more expensive? So we want to avoid what I usually call the Mumbai flu. You know, Mumbai is a city which used to be called Bombay, a city which grew and grew and grew, and then finally the Indian government realized that we need a metro. It became very difficult to build a metro and very costly to build a metro in Mumbai. You have to displace a lot of people, you have to do a lot of compensation and all that. You saw it recently with this SGR, you see. If this SGR had been built when the NAC government came into power, maybe the government would have spent less money compensating people, it much cheaper. But once it was mentioned, the SGR coming in 2013, and it was not done, by the time they were done, all kinds of opportunists and dealers had bought land near it, and compensating them became very expensive. You see what I mean? So the reason why AfriCity is being held in Kisumu is ask a question. If the present intermediate cities are the ones which are going to be the major metropolis in the year 2050, what do we need to do now to avoid the Mumbai flu? And I think that what we are doing in Kisumu, when by the time we hold the AfriCity, we'll tell them these are the things that we are doing to avoid the Mumbai flu, so that Kisumu of 2050 will be a sustainable and resilient urban center. My message to them is the following, that we as a county government, first of all, we are credit rated, so we can borrow from the capital markets. And second, because of that, we have a very friendly business environment. We want to reduce the bureaucracy, and we are reducing the bureaucracy of starting a business in Kisumu. We are improving the communication and available information and data in Kisumu. We have what we call the Kisumu County Statistical Bureau, which gathers local statistics which may not be available in the National Statistical Bureau, Kenya National Statistical Bureau. There are certain local information that never enters there that people would be interested in. Okay, we have established a call center, which we did during COVID, where people can call and find whatever information. And that call center is also producing data that will be very useful to the investor. We are improving our medical services because health is very important, not just by government, but we are inviting people to invest in the health sector. We just opened up a modern hostel in Kisumu, which is really well equipped. This is going to help us during the investment conference and AfriCities, in addition to other health facilities. We have Aga Khan Hostel in Kisumu, which has been one of the leading private sector hospitals in Kisumu, is expanding itself and building a new facility, so that if you are doing business in Kisumu and you want referral services in terms of health, that those facilities are available. We are modernizing Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital and building a new comprehensive cancer care center and other facilities there, so that anybody opening up their business branch or headquarters in Kisumu should not fear availability of services like water or like health or like safe roads and security.
Kisumu.